We are live. Welcome everybody to Free the Mind UK. My name is Dave Carson. I am your host for this evening. Got a fantastic guest tonight, a really interesting guest. Before I introduce him properly, we're going to play our intro video.
Not sure what therapy to choose? Free the Mind UK presents a chat with a therapist. Join us live for an up-close informal discussion of the various holistic therapies available, helping you make that important choice.
Hi everybody. Well, I'm going to tell you about my guest this evening. My guest tonight is Mark Shepherd. Mark is a member of the British Acupuncture Council and a member of the Federation of Holistic Therapists. Mark studied acupuncture at the College of Integrated Chinese Medicine in Reading and practices both 5 elemental acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. And I'm going to ask him about that later. Anyway, without further ado, let's bring on Mark.
Hi,
Hey,
David.
hi Mark. How are you? You're good. Good. Thanks for coming on, joining us, and sharing the love, the love of acupuncture.
Thank you.
Nothing on Facebook. Apparently, there's nothing on Facebook, Mark. What a bum. I'm gonna have to check this out because the actual platform I use, I think I mentioned to you before, it's supposed to go out on 3 different platforms. And at the moment, it's only going out on YouTube,
Okay.
which is a little bit annoying because I wanted it to go out on all those platforms anyway. It doesn't matter. It's all recorded, so people can watch this later on and check it out. So, Mark, welcome. Thank you for coming on the channel.
Pleasure.
It is customary, Mark, to ask our guests, how did you get into acupuncture? What sort of things led you into acupuncture?
Okay, it's about 2 different things really. One was an interest in martial arts since I was since I can remember really. I used to be watching Kung Fu on the TV. And then I started getting into martial arts when I was about 17 and started to read different martial arts magazines. And in one of the magazines, there was one called Shirinji Kempo. And as well as teaching punching, striking, and all the throws and things, they used to teach how to help someone who needs to be revived, etc., and do a type of therapeutic massage, for example. So I thought that was a really nice balance. But what really then took me into it was a period of long-term ill health myself, when I thought, you know what, I'm going to get a book out of the library and start working my way through things and see what I can do that helps.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I kicked off with Reiki, then looked at reflexology.
I
had a real hankering to go and do acupuncture, and so off I went.
Wow, I always find it fascinating, and we sort of, I call it like a calling. We have a particular feeling towards a particular thing like acupuncture or Reiki or whatever it is, crystal healing. So you definitely know in their moments, don't you, what you want to do?
Absolutely.
So how long ago was that then? Was that a little while ago?
Yeah, so I started my degree in 2004. So it was leading up to that. I had to apply to the college, and so it would have been about 2002, 2003 that I was looking at it. And it was strange because I hadn't had acupuncture. I decided I really want to do this.
Really?
Yeah, so I saw a local practitioner and said, look, I really want to know what it feels like. And so in I went, and off they went, and great. So onwards and upwards.
Wow. Well, I've actually had acupuncture myself quite a long time ago, about 20 years ago. Yeah. I can hardly remember. I went to my chiropractor as well about 5 years ago, and he stuck a few needles in me to help with the muscles or whatever. So the big question is, Mark, what is acupuncture, and how does it work? What's it all about?
Okay, so acupuncture dates back a good few thousand years, and it's a Chinese medicine system. And so it looks at there being, in short, it's a way of stimulating the body to have a beneficial response using needles. And also you can do similar by using pressure. And I quite often describe it to my patients as about thinking about the London Underground map and superimposing that on the body, because acupuncture thinks about channels. If you think about all the kind of London tube routes on your body, you can take something like London Victoria as being like the heart. The Victoria line will be like the heart channel, which will run down your arm. And then the little stations on the way will be the acupuncture points. And so some of them are close together, some are far apart, but even if they're close together or far, they can have quite different uses. And it's how they all interlink together. So with acupuncture, you don't need necessarily to go where a problem is to be treating what the problem is.
Oh, I see, because they're all interlinked. See, so you could go somewhere else, and it's going to affect it. Now, Mark, I do a form of EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is apparently, and I wanted to ask an acupuncturist this.
Yeah.
We work on the main meridians of the body. So like we start off here, which is supposed to be a very powerful point. Set it up, and then we often start on the very crown of the head, and I get it there. These points here, underneath the eye there, and the clavicle bone, and in the middle of the side where the bra strap is. Now, would that be sort of correct? Some of the major meridian lines are based there, or is that?
Well, on inside the wrist, you've got 1, 2, 3 channels that you could be thinking of, and some quite important points. Sorry, where am I? Yes, down here, 3 channels and some quite important points around this sort of area across here.
Okay.
And also here you've got some useful points. It's depending about what is the reason for blending them. So sometimes with EFT, you can see people with my camera kind of slapping across points here. So you're using maybe about, I don't know, 9 points there, but but here, the points here can be used for numerous things.
Right.
And with EFT is known to be very effective, so that it
is effective actually.
Yeah, so it's obviously got a way of using this system.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure with acupuncture there must be thousands of points you can put them needles in. But obviously that's shortened down because you can, like you said before, you can go to a particular area where it's going to affect a whole host of things, like areas. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm getting it.
It's good. I mean, there's about 365 points with traditional Chinese medicine. But then when you get to other styles of acupuncture, like tongue acupuncture, there's hundreds more. And so, and that's more of a family style, which has come out more later, as it were, because as a family style, it would normally be carried on. But the person who was kind of heading up that style, as I've heard it, his family didn't want to go into acupuncture, so then he wanted to open it up to other people as well. And so it's one of those, and it has a different way of looking at things as well, which is really interesting. But some of these styles are known for having quick result. So when you put the needle in, you can notice something happening very quickly. And there are some people where that's so like tongue acupuncture with a balance method, which has been really popularized by a great guy called Dr. Tan. He's very unfortunately no longer with us, but he was an absolutely great guy. So there's some styles of looking at things in a different way, and there's other people who have taken some of those styles and just changed them again, like a guy called Jimmy Yang, for example. But I think everybody knows that acupuncture is really old, thousands of years old. But what I like to say is it was born then, but it's still growing up now. So it's still changing and what you might do, and Western styles as well.
Do you know what you say? Like different, like ways of doing it. Is it maybe different ways of putting the needles into the body, or is it different positions? Or
it's a bit like, well, it is that there's different theories that go behind it. So I guess it's
is it more philosophical thing?
I mean, it starts off with a common core, really. It starts off with a common core, but from that you get different ways to deliver. So some people, because acupuncture is so huge, it's like a massive sea of information. there are different ways of looking at it and applying it came out. So I know nothing about football really, but when you look at the World Cup, yeah, you look at the World Cup, you've got people who are playing football, but in very different ways.
Yes.
Or it's like restaurants. Restaurants are all there.
Different styles, yeah.
Yeah, the restaurants are all different.
You mentioned about styles like a language, like expressing a language in different ways.
Yeah. And so each style isn't like necessarily a one set of how you put needles in, but each style itself is a whole language and how you can express it. I mean, one style, for example, like ear acupuncture, where everything is kind of like on the ear. So you have,
didn't know that. So some acupuncturists just work with the ear.
You can just work with the ear. So it's
wow, because I know they do the stop smoking with the ear, don't they?
Absolutely. So if I can get this, so you can get the idea that you have a whole person mapped out on the ear on this side.
Wow, that's crazy. It's just like reflexology with the feet, where it corresponds with organs in the body, different points on the feet.
It can be, and this is more like absolutely. And that's a really good example actually. But with reflexologists on the feet, but with some styles of acupuncture, you can image things on lots of different places. So it could be the ears, it could be the top of the head, it could be the face, it could be the arms or the hands. So you have one style, which is a Korean hand acupuncture, for example, where there's an awful lot of work going on there.
Bloody hell. I mean, blimmin' Nora. It's fascinating because honestly, I don't think a large majority of the general public have any idea about acupuncture. You know, it's and this is fantastic. You know, that you're on here to explain all this to us.
I mean, one thing that I find really interesting is I work with a number of styles of acupuncture, but I always then tend to go to one first because I think always go to the one that helps most of the people most of the time, apart from in certain circumstances. But what I find is that if one style isn't necessarily doing it, another style might talk to their body that bit better.
Do you know, that's an interesting point you made, actually. And that goes across all therapies as well, because like I've got like a suitcase of techniques, you know, just loads of them. And I'll work with a technique with a client that I know generally helps. But obviously some people, it won't help. So then you have to dig in the bag and, use different techniques. So that's always very useful, I'm guessing.
I went to, for myself, a Western trained specialist, but he was very holistic in how he worked. And when I saw him, I said, look, I'm using Reiki on myself. It was back when I was just doing Reiki. And so that was the technique I was using all the time. And not just Reiki, but so Reiki does great things. But but nothing was happening. And he says, well, maybe your body doesn't understand it. Why not try Qigong? So then I started doing Qigong and things started changing.
That's interesting. Maybe your body doesn't understand it. It's interesting. I do a technique called the swan, where I get people to put their hand like this, and I get their unconscious mind to take full control of the arm, right, and get it to move their hand without them moving it. Yeah, it freaks them out a little bit, but it's an amazing technique. Yeah, and some of my colleagues who do this, they seem to have a lot more. They say they have a lot more success with it. You know what I mean? But I've got this idea that it doesn't work with everyone with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
If there was a technique that worked for everything, that that'd be the one we'd all be using.
I love the expression that just because you got a hammer, don't let everything look like a nail. But because there's enough more hammers, so we can give it different possibilities.
Absolutely. So with the Reiki, obviously, did you used to use that on yourself, or was it?
So initially, I was doing it on myself and on friends. I didn't really start becoming a practitioner until it was acupuncture. And then while I was doing that initially, and for a while, and I have done, it's the right thing at the right time. I might be using reflexology, might be using. Acupuncture. Also with acupuncture, you get trained initially in cupping, so you have the glass cups.
A lot of fighters with them. They go in the ring, the MMA fighters, because I like watching that, and I can see the suction marks on their back. Yeah, very interesting. So that's weird.
And you get moxa, it's like a heat treatment, which you have like herb compacted like a big cigar, and you can use it to put heat near an area, or more directly as well. And also other techniques like gua sha, which it's referred to as scraping. It's like a smooth implement where you scrape down a channel. It sounds awful, but it feels really nice. It feels really lovely.
Yeah,
what I find is that for me, it's 98% acupuncture, and then maybe about 2% on the Chinese massage side. But you know, for different people, just be open for different things.
No, absolutely. I find that quite fascinating, though, that you use all these other things as well as the acupuncture. You know, so Steve, Mark, sorry, what am I talking about? Oh my God, I don't know. That's a slip of speech. I must know, Steve. Maybe I spoke to one earlier on. Anyway, Mark.
I answer to most things.
The needles.
Yeah.
Big question. Because there's a lot of people who are like,
yeah,
scared stiff of needles. You know, and if there's anyone out there that's scared stiff of needles, give me a shout. I might be able to help you. Absolutely. But like, you know, do you find that with people? Like some people, or do people who are really afraid of needles probably wouldn't come see you anyway? But do you get like people who are a little bit, you know, like on edge when they come for treatment?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's less than it used to be. Much less than it used to be, but it can happen. And it's all about taking it one step at a time. And I say to them that I'm not great with heights, so I could be thinking, "Oh, can I do this?" And a little 3-year-old's already run past me and done it. And so, but the fact that they've come in, I think, is brilliant, and we can take it just one at a time. And most of the time, you know, really most of the time, acupuncture is, you know, is really comfortable. And
so I'm guessing that if you did have someone that was really, really bad with needles, you could do maybe some acupressure with them.
Absolutely, you can do. And you know, I've treated children as well, and so some of the needles, you can have plastic handles. They can be different colours. Oh, really? And you know, and the blue one's a little bit bigger than the. And you say, okay, so what do you fancy? Would you like a pink one today?
I love it. I love
it. But generally, it's okay. Actually, it really is okay. It's a physical therapy, and some people might feel a lot. But that's not very often. Some people will feel absolutely nothing, and most of us are somewhere in the middle. And it's all just generally comfortable. If people are kind of in lots of pain and, you know, crawling out, I couldn't do it. I'd be a wreck. But you know, most people come in and they just become so relaxed. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I remember when I had mine, the chiropractor did it. He twanged it. He gives it a little twang. It's a bit weird, you know. Is that sort of normal? That's have to get the get it working.
It depends. There's lots of techniques. I don't do too much twang myself. I just pop the needle in.
I must admit, I preferred it when he just popped it in. When he twanged it, it wasn't that great.
It's really interesting because what you can do is you can pop the needle in, and then you can just hold it. And the fact you've created that link can then start. So what you do is when you first start acupuncture, you probably put the needle in and put it to where you want it, and you say, "Can you feel an ache?" Because when it's in, people might feel an ache, spreading, tingling, warmth, heaviness, pulling. It's all good. It's just a needle having a chat with their body. So you would ask them. But the more you do it, the more you build up sensitivity. So you know they can. Or you can feel that the needle's kind of where it needs to be and it's switched on. And so you don't really necessarily need to do much with it. But different styles do different things. So in traditional Chinese medicine, you might be putting an 5-element, put the needle in and doing an ever such slight turn in one direction for strengthening, and ever such slight turn in the other direction for kind of helping things leave, if you like. You know, if someone's got a cold, you're trying to get the cold out. So, but other styles, you deliberately do what's called even technique. So it's neither one nor the other. You just pop it in. And with most things you do, there's a certain amount of intention, and I don't think that's really like willing it to work. I think it's a bit like the difference between if you've got a child and they fell over and you pick them up. You're doing it with more care than if it's a cardboard box, or hopefully. And so it's just the same thing as that when you're needling. It's just, you know why you're doing it, and also different areas have different reasons for being needled.
I love that bit what you mentioned about intention, and I keep hearing this so much. Intention. You know, when you're doing Reiki, a lot of it's about intention. When I do my hypnosis or my stuff with people, a lot of it is intention. It's something I'm really developing now. I think it's really, really powerful. I just want to say we've had a few people here. Let's have a look. We've got Craig here. Just people that are watching said, hello, guys. Someone said, hi, Dave. Nikki here. Hi, Nikki. Thanks for joining us. Nikki Sanchez again says, acupuncture was amazing for me after I had a car accident. Well Brilliant. Done, Nikki. Really pleased for you. And Craig goes on to say, there used to be a lady at the fair that did it. That's one of our fairs we do. So there's an opportunity for you there. Mark, come and check one of our fairs out. And then Nikki says, what's she saying? The twanging, blimmin' it. Yes, Nikki, that's what I didn't want to say it, but
I promise I won't
much.
I promise I won't.
It doesn't hurt that much. But look, guys, thanks for your messages. Yeah, absolutely. Just take that off a second. Just have a little look at this. So, Mark, I'm intrigued on what sort of areas it can help with,
Okay. So, so in terms of, people come to me with a whole wide range of issues. They might come into me on an emotional basis or a physical basis, and that might be something which is functional in terms of what's going on inside them, or it might be that something which is suffering from overuse or an accident. And so it's taking what's happening and then understanding it from a Chinese medicine point of view.
Okay.
And depending on the style of acupuncture you're using, you will take a different Chinese medicine point of view.
Okay.
To then select the points you're using, where they are, and what you're doing with them. And what I like about with some of this, and the points you're using, if they're kind of on the hands or the arms, you can send people away with homework about how they can actually do it themselves. And so, in terms of talking about the actual conditions, that there's a number of conditions, like with most things, a number of conditions you can talk about in terms of like advertising and things. And when you look at the research that's behind acupuncture, there's lots and lots of things that are out there. And my professional body, the British Acupuncture Council, has research on its website and also talks about the qualities of research. So some of it might change due to how many people participate, and some the actual how the treatments were done, and was like a double-blind trial, for example. So there's things out there. So the best thing to do is talk to your acupuncturist and say, no, do you think you can help with this? And there are some things that by law you won't be helping with, sort of like cancer. That isn't what happens. If someone comes in and they do have cancer, what you're doing is you're trying to support them as a person.
We have the similar thing.
And so all manner of things come into me, really, absolutely all manner. And some of them can be things which are quite things you might imagine from like a day-to-day, things being pulled or something like that. Or sometimes where people have been going through lots of different therapies and lots of different things, say with conventional medicine, but they're just not finding answers. And so they come in, and so headaches is one thing, and which gets promoted with acupuncture, for example, and chronic pain, because there's a big move about changing how people are medicated and taking them off. And headaches is quite an interesting one, because if you have too much headache medication, it can potentially give you headaches, which is which is a known thing. On the I'm sure that's on the NHS website, and that's where I originally saw it. But I can check and confirm that. So it's and it's really interesting, because you treat all walks of life, which is people from all different professions and backgrounds, and the stories you hear of their lives are just wonderful. So I don't know if that's getting off track slightly, but
no, I mean that's that's fantastic as well, because you do develop you can develop a relationship with, especially if they come regular, or every so often you get to know them. It's like my chiropractor. we have very similar ideas about life. So every time I go there, we just go straight into it, you know.
Yeah.
And we have a great time. He's like contorting my body in all weird positions, but it's all good because I'm thinking we're talking, you know what I mean? So it takes
Yeah.
your mind off the
Absolutely.
treatment. So
I think it's so important to understand someone as well, and what's going on for them, because wherever possible, you know, I like to be taking the tacks out of the road rather than just repairing the punches. So if you've got someone who keeps coming in because their shoulders are bad, but really they've got a lot of stress going on in their lives, sometimes you're the first person they've told about that. So if you can help them with that and manage it with techniques and what you do as an acupuncturist and various other self-help and homework, hopefully you're working at the why as well as the what, to make some sort of the change as lasting as you possibly can.
And I think that's important as well. You know, your clients, because I give my clients homework, and it's incorporating that commitment to actually do it. You know, because some people like to have problems because it makes them very popular sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where someone sort of needs the problem because there's a whole set of circumstances that revolve around that problem that in a way sort of serves them in a particular way. To lose the problem, they would lose that sort of system that's been in place for however long. I find that personally anyway. So
I mean, sometimes people, if they've had a condition for a long time, for example, you can forget, and and so you talk to people when they're in long-term pain, and it's so what would you like out of this? And they say, I want this pain to stop. Okay, you want the pain to stop, but why? Which sounds like a really stupid question, but it's because they want to be dancing, they want to be picking up their grandchildren, they want to be getting a full night's sleep. They're going to get a full night's sleep because they want to be able to study better. They want to be able to do this. They want to have a better relationship with the people around them. And because they've been in their state for so long, they can forget what they're no longer doing because they're just consumed with the daily pain.
Yeah. Would you? I mean, I'm up the thought that most physical conditions have an emotional basis somewhere. It's a bit controversial, you know, depending on how you think. What do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
I do definitely have thoughts on that. There's a friend of mine who quotes the Chinese medicine saying that all disease is rooted in emotion. And one of the causes of disease in acupuncture is emotion. But the reason is because the way that they see it like that is because the organs in Chinese medicine are considered to have three functions. They got mental functions, emotional functions, and physical functions. And so it's operating at the same level. So something emotional can affect the same resource as a physical thing can affect the same resource. So that will follow on. So that's one aspect of it. So what's your original question again?
Well, it was like you know. Emotion is the foundation of all physical problems.
Basically. And I think that on that point, what I often think is that can very much be the case because people, in common speech as well, sort of like if they're nervous, they'll get butterflies in their stomach. If they get nervous for too long, quite often people can start getting real digestive issues, and so the kidneys in Chinese medicine are related to fear. And interestingly enough, you got the adrenals, you know, with the kidneys. But so on the emotional aspects of disease, in Chinese medicine wise, there's a correlation. But I think look at it in two ways. It's like if you've been hit by a cricket ball, it's not due to an emotional cause.
Exactly.
But your emotional state might change how well
you get over it.
Because if it's been sort of like everything has been going badly for you, and the next thing that happens, oh my God, this is well. You know, it's how and
that can have an effect on the healing process, basically. Is that
well, I think the more you can lift people's spirits, the more you can help them, because you know it's got to be the healing power of laughter, hasn't it? I mean, I always take things very seriously, but if I can, but generally we laugh in the treatment room at some point. It's laughing.
So important. I was going to ask you, actually, Mark. I read somewhere that you can do this on babies, put needles in babies. Sounds a bit masochistic. It's like a little tiny baby. What sort of, how old, you know, what's the youngest they normally are?
The youngest I've treated is 3, which isn't actually a baby. But with a baby, you can easily use pressure, but you can definitely use needles. And but where you typically see acupuncture is mainly on the TV, and someone's like, it's like a jokey thing or a comedy series, and someone's walking around actually covered.
Yes, but like a porcupine, loads of needles in them.
Absolutely, but you can pop a needle in and take it out, and people won't necessarily know.
Yeah.
So that you can watch it, and you can pop it in. You can do a different technique. So if this is a needle going in, there might be a tube there. You press the tube and tap for the needles inside the tube. Or you might tap the skin just as you put it in, or press the skin as you put it in, and one thing disguises the other, and it's in, it's done, it's gone before people are aware of it. So it's not like a stealth acupuncture. They can watch it happening, but so often people go, oh, yeah. I say to people that they're quite often quite underwhelmed by how it feels when it actually goes.
Because you sort of expect it to be a bit more, wouldn't you? Because I think it's, excuse me, I think it's when you use the word needle, it's like it has all these sort of things in people's minds. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my god.
I mean, some of the needles that you'd be using is some of the needles that I use would be sort of 0.18 of a millimeter.
Wow, that's
it's absolutely tiny.
Wow.
And so, I mean, if someone's phobic, a needle would be a needle. But once they become aware of it, I mean, some of the needles, you know, they're so beautifully made. You got different styles of needles, whether it could be a Korean needle, Chinese needle, Japanese needle. And the difference is the handles. But, you know, you can get a lovely, if the needle were long enough, they're so well made, you could probably tie them in a knot.
Really?
And because they can be some can be so fine. You can get thicker ones for sure. But and there's different ways in different styles of acupuncture which would decide whether you use a thicker or a thinner needle. But with other styles of acupuncture, you can just use the same all the way through.
Can I ask you, Mark, do you, when you're working with people like under the age of 18, people over the age of 18, do you notice any difference in sort of the healing process between like an adult and a child? Is there any sort of difference in the I know it's a bit of a weird question, but it's just coming in my head.
It's not a weird question. The number of people that I've treated who are over 18 far outweigh the people that I've treated below that. So I don't know whether I would.
You haven't got enough to.
It's
and you probably wouldn't even know anyway. Maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can find children. They really respond. They can really respond. And it's, you know, it's all about trust. Whenever you go to see any practitioner, whoever it is, do you feel comfortable? Do you trust? And some of that is, okay, this feels right here, and then the rest gets built over time. And so I do find that children can respond for sure, most definitely. And there are the people that have trained me who have written books on treating children and do it for most of their practice. It's it depends where your practice takes you, really.
Yeah, I love that as well. You know, that journey where it ends up going to, you know.
Yeah, you hear about people that were specialised who never attended specialising. It just happens that one.
Incredible. How long does it take? Just for people out there might be interested in actually taking up acupuncture, it might be something they've thought about.
I mean,
does it take quite a long time to qualify in it?
So I'm a member of the British Acupuncture Council, and so there's no compulsory regulation really for acupuncture in the UK. So I choose to be a member of the British Acupuncture Council. And for them, you need at least 3 years training in a degree level training in acupuncture from an approved association, which has been approved by the British Acupuncture Accreditation Board. So the course that I did was a 3.5-year degree course, and which was College of Integrated Chinese Medicine in Reading, which was just an awesome place to go. and which was working with Kingston University.
Wow.
And in the 3.5 years that I was there wasn't a single day of padding. There wasn't a day I feel that they could have missed out.
Wow. That's incredible. So go on.
Now, I was going, having passed a degree, one of the great and the good in acupuncture, a gentleman called Peter Morrill, was talking to us and saying, you've got a degree now, but think of it like of an O-level in acupuncture. It's like, oh, thanks, because it's passing your driving test or getting your black belt.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You've got this journey ahead of you. It's
Absolutely.
like so much more.
Yeah,
it's a vast subject.
Yeah, but they equip you really well. They equip you really well there.
Yeah. Can it be overwhelming?
In terms of the study,
yeah,
there is a lot of study. And
I can imagine.
Oh God. There's a lot to take on, and when I was doing the 3.5 years, I studied every day apart from Christmas Day for 3 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
you're proper committed to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can just go on learning, and it's really important. When you go on courses and things, and I like to go on courses. I want to go on more. I imagine you find the same. You get the learning from the course and the learning from talking to the people around you. And one great resource I found is is Facebook, and connecting with acupuncturists around the world and hearing what they're doing and how they're doing it. Because there's some brilliant, fascinating things out there.
That sounds incredible, actually. Yeah.
So it's acupuncture. Pretty much always needle goes in, apart from in some styles of acupuncture, the Japanese acupuncture, where it doesn't. But it's the bit that before that, it's the why, which I think is the fascinating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a bit like yourself. I'm always looking to find out more, because it's a vast subject, what I'm involved in, in the way of therapy, and so many different techniques. Again, it's a bit like a language. It can be expressed in so many different ways. I've just discovered that Nikki Sanchez, one of the ladies that mentioned on some of the not questions, but said the twanging blimmin' she was at my psychic fair today. And we were having a chat about doing some hypnosis, and I told her about the channel, so she said she was going to come on tonight. And she has. Well done, Nikki. Super sonic. Love it.
It's interesting. So with the twanging, the idea is
I was going to ask you, why do they do that? What's the idea?
It can be a way of it depends on the acupuncture, because you can get some different types, like where it's more kind of like muscle release, so might be trying to create a stimulation down there. But if you look at the different, once the needle's in there, it needs to be a feeling of connection, and you can do it by holding it, moving it, or you can flick the needle. It's about encouraging the energy, if you like, to come to the needle and get that connection. So it's a different ways of creating stimulus. But other styles will pop it straight in. Other styles will do quite a lot of movement, and it just depends on what they're doing.
So essentially, when the needle's put in a particular point, the idea is to clear the channel, is it? Because a lot of it's based on like energy blockages, is it?
Yeah. So I mean, acupuncture is described as wanting to move chi and blood.
Yes.
And so if you think of that, blood wants to, if something has got a good blood supply, the idea is that's so just talking in terms of theory. About chi, acupuncture theory will say moving chi and blood, and the blood is there to nourish and cleanse an area. And also chi, it's it's described as energy. But what you'll often hear is that when the Chinese classics were being translated, the symbol that was translated as energy was a symbol for air.
Really?
So that in terms of wanting oxygen, an area to be oxygenated. So I think it works both ways, because when you're looking in terms of acupuncture and the energy of something, I think that's very relevant. But also the idea of that they're actually saying air is really relevant, because it was a really sophisticated system where they were looking at people who would have been suffering from, when you take it onto blood, they would have been suffering from blood loss, from accidents, medical conditions, and also it was a time where they might have been chopping each other up a little bit in terms of warfare, etc. So they could see what happened with people with blood deficiency, as I would describe it, but also it's poor nutrition, and they were struck by times of famine. And what was happening there, and how it can then affect the mind. Chinese medicine said that the mind resides in the blood, because when the blood isn't so nourished, that's when they notice people kind of jump more easily, get more anxious. And also they would have been seeing what happens with people when they have diseases that affect their breathing, and how well people heal. So when they observe that people were not breathing well and their healing is different, it was a massively sophisticated system.
It's interesting because I had a guest on last week, Genevieve, who a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about a very interesting subject, conscious breathing. Getting that oxygen into your body, probably into your blood and everything. And I've been studying it, and it's fascinating. It can how it can help the body. Like, it's just blows my mind, almost to the point that, like, if you get the breathing right, you don't have to worry about anything else, because it's like the elixir, the thing that's like that we all do every day, but we just, obviously
it's how we do it, because my understanding is if you're breathing up high, it's more fight and flight. And so that's simply by trying to lower the breath. And I really like that program on TV, the Celebrity SAS program.
Oh yeah, I know the one. So I haven't got a telly, but I remember.
There's a book written by a number of the trainers there, the ex-SAS, and they were saying that when they're in a stressful situation, they take 2 deep breaths, and it's a stressful situation with the SAS must be pretty stressful. And one of the examples was given there when they were caught in an ambush, and so 2 deep breaths, make a decision, go. And it's amazing, how we can change things. And in martial arts and Tai Chi and Qigong, and it's just breathing.
Breathing again. Exactly. I'm actually going to really get into breathing, like proper, like throw myself into it, divulge into it in a big way. And I've set my watch. We're digressing a bit here. But, I've set my watch 2 hours a day. Every 2 hours, in the day. I've got an Apple Watch, and it vibrates on my wrist, and then I know I've got to engage in my deep breathing, because you forget. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go back to the old breathing.
I mean, quite often you're talking to people, and if they're working and they're doing something quite difficult or quite tense, at work, they might be holding their breath.
Yes.
And so it doesn't
happens a lot. That.
Almost. It doesn't need to be conscious breathing sounds great, but consciously not stopping breathing, which obviously it sounds very essential, but it's it's stressful situations, we do tend to hold our breath sometimes, and it just creates a better sense of relaxation.
No, absolutely. Well, I used to do a lot of meditation. But now they reckon the conscious breathing is going to be the new sort of meditation thing. It's really starting to become really popular. Very popular.
I'll check out. So that I'll check your podcast out on that.
Yeah, Genevieve, she's pretty cool lady. What was I going to ask you? It's what would happen? What would happen in a typical session, if you can talk about it? Like, so when a client contacts you, what's the process for people that are watching them? I want to contact you and work with you.
So when someone contacts me, the first time they come, I would have already sent a form to them so they can complete it and bring it in. Because as well as why they're coming, it's really important to know about them. One from a professional point of view, and also to understand what's going on with them. And so and also to bring the form in, it means I've had a chance to sit down with a cup of tea and fill it out. And so the cogs are already turning. And then when they come in, if I ask them any questions, having gone through the form with them, then they're much more easily getting to the answers. So part of the process, you then have the diagnosis process in Chinese medicine, and it's it's looking, listening, and elements of touch. So you might be taking the pulse, and you take the pulse in 3 positions. Can't get my wrist on the camera. Yeah, there is. So positions 1, 2, 3 on different sides on both wrists, and they're different. They represent different levels of the body, and there are different styles of pulse taking.
Wow.
And you might look at it a little bit differently depending on the style of acupuncture. And so the pulse is kind of what's happening here and now. And you can also look on the tongue, and the different areas of the tongue represent different areas of the body. So what you want to do is put together.
Is it like a map?
Yes. Yeah. So the different areas of the tongue represent different bits of the body. And so you look at the shape of the tongue, the color of the tongue, the coating of the tongue, whether there are cracks or anything there. And it all adds up to the information. And then you decide on how you're going to treat. And and some of the treatments will be based on that almost purely, as well as what the problem is being presented. But other styles of acupuncture will then be, actually, this is really good information, but where is it? So, okay, someone's coming in with a digestive problem. Where do they feel it? Okay, they feel it here. What channels run through that? And pick the channels. And once you've got the channels that run through it, what channels help those channels? And then where do you need to needle to get there? Or you might be using it in a very different way. Okay, what's the underlying reason for the digestion? Is it because there's a digestive problem? Or is it because they're stressed? Or it's just trying to get into the underlying bit. And so having done the diagnosis and talked to someone, I let them know what I'd like to do, why I'd like to do it. If they give me the thumbs up, then off we go.
Wow.
And there's always another way.
Yeah.
And so, if for some reason sometimes you have issues where someone may have had lymph nodes removed. And so typically following maybe a surgery, following maybe breast cancer, had lymph nodes removed on the armpit. And then you can't needle down that arm. From an acupuncture point of view, you can still put acupuncture towards that arm by using the channels and how you can access them from other places.
I get that. Like you were saying that earlier on, I love that. Yeah.
And so let's make it slightly less complicated. If somebody had pain in an area, but it was bandaged, or you just couldn't get there.
And you couldn't access it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get to it from somewhere else.
Well, I love that.
And so so you can treat a back from someone's arm, from someone's hand.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. How long does a session last for?
When I see someone
on average,
session the first time is slightly longer. It's an hour and a half, and then it's going to be an hour thereafter. So
hour and a half in the initial session, sort of, that familiarity with the different things you've got to, find out and stuff. Yeah.
And then the next one is going to be an hour. And when you see an acupuncturist, sometimes I pop the needles in and they'll be there for 20, 25, 30 minutes or so. Another time we see an acupuncturist, I'll put the needle in, might do a little technique and take it out again. And it's all correct.
Okay.
Because it's just what you want it to do, what question you're asking it at the time. It's a different method of delivering it. And it's all correct, whether it's left in or not, on the basis of following that style.
I love it. It's so fascinating. Honestly, it's like I've been so excited about having someone on here to talk about acupuncture. I'm so glad it's you, Mark. I really do.
Likewise. And with the acupuncture theory, it doesn't necessarily, if I may, it doesn't necessarily add up to what we might expect when we talk day to day with people. Yeah. But what I think is when you get something explained to you in acupuncture terms, just add the words, it's a bit like in front of them. So I reckon 2,500 years ago, there'd be a couple of people sitting there going, oh, this is troubling me. And the person does a diagnosis. And they go, oh, it's a bit like this. So Chinese medicine might talk about damp or phlegm if someone's got a lot on the tongue. Or if they've got swelling, that will be described as damp. And so 2,500 years ago, someone's like, well, it's a bit like damp. Or where people find that they're really weighed down and everything feels sluggish and heavy in their body. It's a bit like I've got some heavy damp clothes on. It's a bit like damp. So, and you can feel different sensations on the pulses corresponding with that.
Wow. So by going by the pulses, you can sort of feel what's going on.
with the pulses, you can. I might take the pulse and say to someone, "Oh, you're a bit phlegmy at the moment," and it might be the case, or some things could be stress, or it could be pain that you might be picking up from different qualities on the pulse, and the pulse can change depending on, even if they're thinking about something different at that time.
I was going to ask you as well, Mark. Like let's say you've got somebody that's reasonably balanced in their life, and they're quite intrigued with acupuncture, with the meridian energies, and they would just like to go and give themselves to make sure that although they haven't got any situations or no pains, they just want to see if their channels are free and whatever. Do you get people like that coming to see you? Just for just to get everything, making sure it's all flowing beautifully or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So every day when you sit down and relax, you don't wait till you're really stressed before you do it. And so, which is almost like I'm telling people off. I don't mean so if you can be proactive in what you do from an acupuncture point of view, it's great. I mean, I always used to be really upset if I went for a treatment or something wrong with me. I want to go in feeling as I did and just come out having had the treatment. And if someone comes to me and they come in and I say, "How are you feeling?" and they say, "Good." And when they leave, I say, "How are you feeling?" and they say,
"Amazing."
Yeah, it makes my day. And I generally refer to things as being acupuncture sessions. And so, it's due to the way that things are, understandably, everybody wants to look after the public. And that's really, so I try and refer to things as acupuncture sessions rather than acupuncture treatments, but whatever they come in with, if I can help put the smiles on the faces and help them get them back to what they want to do, brilliant.
It's amazing. Love it. Again, like you say, such a fascinating subject. And I have no idea the tongue would be involved in it. Looking at the tongue, is that part of your training, is it?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Another pulse, it's not necessarily, you look at the speed of the pulse, but also the shape of the pulse and how it feels as it passes underneath your hand. And so it's there's different qualities relate to different things in the body.
I'm guessing that takes a bit of experience to get used to as well.
It does. You celebrate at first because you found a pulse, and then
I can imagine.
But so when you're training, everyone's taking each other's pulses, and if there's a particular quality, then everybody comes around to feel that quality. And also assessing tongues, you have a class of people sticking their tongue out.
Wow.
And then you start going, okay, I want to grade this in colour. So you start swapping people around, and so you can start building up a catalogue of what you have to find a normal, if you like, to be able to assess what isn't. And so it's just at the time of doing that. So we get massage therapists, when they're used to working with the body, the hand has just talked to them. And that doesn't feel quite right. And
yeah, absolutely. As they're moving, they just, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I keep saying that, don't I? It does. I love it. It fascinates me. It's like amazing. Yeah. It must be like really, really great to be involved in that sort of work.
Yeah. It is.
There's a lot involved in it.
I think a lot of it with everything that we do and you do, it's just openness and honesty. It's you may have been able to have come across something before, you might not. There might be research out there might not, and you just give realistic expectations and and then you start off on this course together, and you have stopping points along the way, so people don't think they've signed up for forever. Let's explore, so it goes. Or you might say, oh, do you know what, I've done this. I've helped people with a similar condition X many times before. But it's always interesting. It's always, there's expression about who is it that brings the problem, because their life and what they do is going to be different compared to other people, and what else they might be dealing with that might be contributing to exactly the same thing. And, when you look at, digestive issues from a Chinese medicine point of view, you might have X many people coming in with a similar kind of maybe diagnosis, but differently, because from acupuncture point of view, it will be a different underlying cause. I was gonna say, do you ever get underlying causes can be very similar, like with, even though they've like there'll be people that maybe they're in grief or something like that. Yes.
And there's like an underlying thing that can.
Wow. Yeah, you can. I mean, you might have someone coming in with sort of like tension headaches, tension in the shoulders, conditions where the symptoms ebb and flow, that they're not constant, menstrual issues, some irritability, or feeling quite depressed in their mood, and that could all come from one thing. And it could be different people coming in with it, but it could all come from one underlying imbalance, Chinese medicine-wise. Or if you look at 5-element acupuncture, what you're actually diagnosing is person type, and seeing how they respond on an emotional basis. And that will be how you're then aiming. By understanding that, it helps you kind of select the points to treat them constitutionally. The idea being, if you treat them constitutionally, then things kind of develop from that. You're getting into the command center, if you like, about how they function, and it kind of like helps them shakes off. So what's happening to them is kind of like a flag that's being waved saying, I need some support. And so off you go that way.
Wow, I love it. And what about smoking, stopping people smoking? Because I've heard really good things about the. I believe what I've heard is that people have said they've had something put in their ear. It's normally the ear that I've heard from.
Yeah.
Is that so? Like, let's say with a smoker, they have like cravings, So like, I just find it interesting how putting like a needle or something into the ear on a particular point can help them cancel out all them cravings. Do you know what I mean?
So it's I think with acupuncture that there's many different ways that are approaching it. So this is from an acupuncture theory point of view. So what you might want to identify is the underlying need of why the person is smoking in the first place. It is one way of doing it, of working with it. Another way of working with it is, like you say, the ear. So with the ear, you get a protocol which is referred to as NADA, N-A-D-A, and that was originally brought about by, I believe it was a Singaporean neuroscientist who was wanting to help patients with opioid addiction. And so he started using 5 points in the ear, which related to five of the different organs, the emotional component thereof. And so that gets used all around the world. But they've also now gone to use it. There's research you can look at where they've used it post-cancer.
Wow.
And so if you go on the British Acupuncture Council website and look up, there's a video on YouTube. Let's see if I can post a link to it on this. And it shows acupuncture and this particular thing being used in a hospital environment, and also in at Grenfell, for example, where there have been incidents of really terrible things happening. Quite often you have a team of acupuncturists will go and they will start treating people. And it's help soothing the mind. So if you soothe the mind and elimination, and so and you can look at it from other ways with acupuncture as well. But I've had people come into me who have been treated by other people for smoking. They said it's absolutely wonderful, and I've helped with people a number of times with smoking. And what you're going to look at is how much does someone want to give up, and have a reason for doing it is really good. And then start looking at habits. And so if you always come in, sit down in the same place and start smoking, can you sit down somewhere else? Just try and change something like that, and look at the why. And so, and not replacing one thing for the other, but have a positive reason. So not that I don't want to get this horrible disease that someone else has had. Think about, I want to go and do this. I want to be fully fit and functional so I can go. So, I think you're always heading towards a positive. It's more uplifting.
Of course, absolutely. Well, I do a thing called integral eye movement therapy, which is the movement of the eyes on different axes while the person holds on to an emotion. And generally, the eye movement will clear the original imprint, that the feeling behind the experience. And the idea, the model, it's only a model, but the idea is that amygdala is like, whoa, and the hippocampus is instead of like date stamping the experience, is too busy flooding the body with chemicals. So this particular experience sort of gets stuck in limbo in the nervous system. And when we move the eyes, because you're looking at all these different axes, so in the original event, there's a good chance you're going to hit one of them axes, even when it was happening, where they were looking and everything. And somehow, some way, it releases it from the nervous system, allows something to put it where it's supposed to go, and afterwards, the person will go, "Oh my God, where's the emotion gone?" Yeah, and I'm looking at that as like a blockage. Yeah. In a sense, in limbo and as a blockage, and I'm just using that analogy with acupuncture, you know, like undoing blockages. Well, it's a very similar thing, like if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and so with acupuncture, you know, it can be considered looking at blockages in many ways. So pain is considered to be something. One of the expressions is stagnation. So the idea of you might have a stream or a river which is running really dry, and you get this little pause of stagnation, and that's kind of a pain from this deficiency. Something is really tired out. Or you can have the river where it's bursting its banks, and that's pain from an excess, right? Something far too much is going on in there somehow. That way. That's one type of blockage. But also you have it, you know, you could look with the theory on the emotional basis. And what's happened to us in our past. And so, but when something is going on with someone, it's really interesting to know what was going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And within 5-element acupuncture, and just using that one as an example, because you know that there's so many great styles of acupuncture, it has a set which are called blocks to treatment.
Okay.
And you'd quite often be going through those depending on what you feel on the pulses or what's presented to you. For dealing with different situations someone might have been experiencing. So it's not, for example, if I've had a car accident, do this one. If this, it's what you detect perhaps that might be happening to the person following that.
Yes.
And it can be, there's a lovely one which goes down the back, called an AE drain. There's a number of them, which a couple on the front. There's a number, and also looking at how the channels work. There's a theory that if it's a series of channels, if it's a series of tube lines, they have to start and end somewhere.
Of course.
One will progress to the other, and it might be because someone gets off of one and walks up the stairs and gets to the other. But there's some way to get from one to the other, and as long as that's working, things are flowing. But if you're going down the London Underground and they've been shut, oh no, the escalators are shut, we're going to have to walk up the stairs, everything. Yeah. And so you get entry-exit blocks with acupuncture. So you might be looking, is there something going on where one channel stops, another one starts? There's another way of looking at things.
I love it. I keep saying that word. I love it. I'm not saying that anymore. Oh my God, I've said it too many times, but I do love it.
I do on a daily basis. It's just fascinating.
Absolutely. You're doing something, I can tell you love it, and you're passionate about it. And
it's brilliant. And it's all about, there's so many tools in the box that you just want the one, you know, working with that person, and you start working and exploring what's happening for them. And you know, it's like most things, it's, you know, it's that whole idea of you're planting a seed in the ground, and you've got to water it and let it grow. But with some of the styles, you can notice change. With some of the styles, you can genuinely notice change within seconds.
Wow.
And so you know something's going the right direction.
With
other styles, you're planting the seeds. And it doesn't necessarily mean any one style is better than the other. It's, you got to know where you feel comfortable and how you're working, and also listening to them. You might love a particular style of way of doing things, but if they've been treated in a different way that you can do, and they already know it helps, it kind of makes sense that you support them with that. Then as long as it makes sense, it's diagnostically correct, and then you can branch out from there.
I've got to ask you, because we're sort of coming to the time to wrap up, but you do a form of massage. Am I pronouncing it right? Tui Na? Is that?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so it's called Tui Na. And so Tui Na.
I had it wrong. See, what's it called?
No, that's almost perfect. So Tui Na is described as Chinese therapeutic massage. So a way of looking at it is taking a Chinese medicine diagnosis and applying it using massage technique. And Tui is a pushing technique. So if I get my hand on camera,
Okay.
so you're kind of pushing along and
Yeah.
and get my camera back. And Na is like a pulling technique. So typically, like you might find on the shoulders, so you can pull, release, and but there's lots of different techniques. And I've used it with children. I've used it with adults, and it can be anything from having a hand still over an area, like with Reiki, or it could be you just pressing down on a point, or using circles, or there's lots of different techniques.
Is there quite a lot of pressure on that? Because like some sort of massage, some of them are very light. Is it sort of? It's not like a sports massage, obviously.
It depends. I mean, normally when I'm doing it, I would say not, because I like working with persistence personally, rather than kind of let's jump in. But I had about four great teachers when I did the course on that, because I'd already studied acupuncture. The course was a year, because we already had the foundation of the acupuncture. And one day they did a technique on my back. I couldn't even speak. It was so strong.
Really?
The next day I felt great, but that's not how I personally work.
Yeah.
And one thing I found, which is diverging a little bit, when I went to the College of Integrated Chinese Medicine, was that they had so many lecturers there that although they were teaching the same thing, you were getting exposed to their different experiences of doing it, which is wonderful. But going back to the Tui Na, it's another way of working. And I think sometimes when you're working on something, do a few acupuncture, then do a Tui Na, a few acupuncture, then do the Tui Na, because sometimes one thing will waken up something else in the body, and it can be.
So is that how you normally work with it then? You'll do the massage and do a bit of acupuncture with it in a session with that?
I don't normally do it at the same time, but you can. Okay. You could theoretically do lots of things in a session. Someone can come in, put the needles in, put the cups on, do all sorts of things. But I tend to personally think that if I want to do needling, I want it to do it for a needling length of time.
Yeah, I see.
But there are ways of working where, so you can put a needle on the wrist and then one down on the foot, and it will work right the way up through the back is one way of working. So you can be massaging on the back at the same time.
Wow.
So because those needles are nowhere in the way, and it's just, it's delivering the message that you want. So and not having to work around too much. But but different people work in different styles, which they found just kind of works for them. Which is great, because I imagine the people that in your class, in your studies, they've got their own little traits, their own personality, and it comes out in how they do stuff.
You sort of make it your own, don't you? You have like a foundation to work from, and then you hopefully make it your own. But so Mark, I put your email on there, so if anyone's watching, if you're happy, I should
absolutely.
If anyone wants to get hold of Mark, ask any questions, there's his email address there. We've had your website up there for quite a while, but we're going to pop it up again now. There we go. So if you want to go and visit Mark's website, there we go, www.shepherd-holistic.co.uk. I think there's another name for it, isn't it? What is it? That dash.
Hyphen.
That's the one. It went on my head.
I say it every day, so it's. And I think with things like acupuncture, it's becoming more and more commonplace.
Yeah.
And it's it feels probably very different to what you expect, and it can be just deeply relaxing, and it's really important. I think to find ways of tapping into that for ourselves. And it's so easy.
I wanted to say as well, if someone's like quite a distance away watching this, Mark can still do some work remotely with acupressure. Right? Like you used it during COVID, didn't you? So
during COVID, I was doing Zoom calls like this, and using one of the styles of acupuncture. Really, I was showing people where they could apply pressure themselves.
There you go. Look at that.
And And it's, you know, and I've sometimes had people call me from holiday going, Mark, this has happened. You try and, you know,
I might be one of them people now,
yeah,
Mark.
you do it. You do it. You do it. But the other thing is, you know, if they're not close to me as well, there's also the British Acupuncture Council website. Have a look on that. And in different countries, there are different professional bodies. But yeah, you know, yeah, always happy to chat.
So where are you based, Mark? Where are you based?
I'm in Donington, Chichester, West Sussex. So if you know the big Tesco's in Chichester near Westgate Leisure Centre, on a clear day, I'm about 6 minutes from there.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's a nice farm location. So the number of businesses here can park straight outside. I quite like it because I wanted somewhere on the ground floor. So sometimes people come in holding the walls because they're in a lot of pain. And so it's very easy. It's like 2 steps in, you're in. So.
Look at that! Look at that! Listen to that, people. It's all good. So if you want to work with Mark, and I'm sure you'd love to after listening to this, because it's like he's obviously really knows his stuff. He's very passionate about it, and he wants you to go out smiling and maybe free of pain or whatever. So yeah, just contact Mark. Fantastic. And I just want to say, Mark, look, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh God, it's been a real pleasure, and I'd love to hear you interviewed on one of these if you haven't been already. It's absolutely fascinating. So I've really enjoyed it. So, yeah, no, thank you.
I've definitely got a few stories to tell. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Oh, and we're going to get lots of people watching this on the recording. And thank you for getting acupuncture out there. That's what all this channel is all about. People that are watching, this channel is to educate the public on what's available out there in an alternative sense. And we're going to have we've got quite a lot of guests coming on with some fascinating different types of healing modalities. So, you know, keep checking us out. Keep looking out for the next talks that are coming up. And if you get the chance to like and subscribe to the channel, give us a subscribe, because again, to do with the YouTube analytics or whatever you call it, you know, it helps get some videos out there, so people like Mark can hit lots of people, not hit them literally, obviously, but you know, get out there. It's all about getting out there. So with that in mind, I'd like to say to everyone, thanks for watching. And I am sorry that we didn't go live on the 2 Facebook platforms. I'm going to have a look at that, because there would have been people on there that might not have access to the YouTube channel. So we're going to be looking at that for next time. And once again, Mark, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Okay, super. Bye, everybody.